I'm going to talk a little bit about clarity of thought, what clarity of thought would mean. I will definitely admit that I am not really a very clear thinker. Most of my thinking is often very confused. It's fraught with emotion. And I think this is because I've immersed myself unintentionally in society and culture, that of which I ironically resist, because I've bought into all of the distractions, all of the confusions, all of the information. So there's the great postmodernist concept of too much information, and that just seems to be increasing. The complexity of information and culture seems to be increasing as the days go by, and it can be overwhelming and mind-boggling. So I don't really have like a perfect solution for finding clarity of thought, though one thing that's occurred to me lately is this idea that clarity comes when you least expect it, and clarity comes, it would seem, when you're not even really looking for it. So it seems that the clarity of thought comes when you least expect it for sure, and when you don't impute some kind of conceptual scheme on the clarity, you just kind of see it for what it is. So the great statement would be, it is what it is, or it just is. And I think this is a really good way to remind yourself that the clarity can come and the clarity is possible, but in order to do that, sometimes you have to see things as they are. Now, I don't want to get too philosophical, but there's the realist and anti-realist tradition, and the realist would say that there is a way that the world actually is. This is an objective world in a sense. This is a world that just is. But I'm not necessarily sure that I'm subscribing to that view particularly, because I think that is itself a conceptual scheme that is limiting. And so really what I'm trying to say is that clarity can be very difficult to find, especially clarity of thought. You know, when we experience so many things, so much stimuli all of the time, and we're bombarded with information and how we should live our lives, when we're bombarded with conceptual schemes and the like, when we're bombarded with religion, when we're bombarded with skepticism, when we're bombarded with philosophy and we're bombarded with ideas, it's very easy to think that clarity can't exist. And this can be even more problematic if you have like a mental condition. You have a way of filtering the world that is atypical, not necessarily bad, but atypical. But that's why, again, I would just say that it seems that we kind of just need to learn to tune out. So what am I trying to say? So when we realize that there's too much and that we've been absorbing too much, then it's time that we tune out and we just let our own conceptual scheme decide what's going to happen. I will admit that most of my talks on my YouTube channel are very based and entrenched in the philosophical form, in the logical form. So I try to make them very philosophical and logical and precise. And I think that what I haven't done enough is not necessarily stream of consciousness thinking, because that sounds too messy, but I would say that what I haven't done is allow myself to simply talk and simply allow myself to think purely. And this was something that John Nash pointed out, which is that he didn't like studying too much because he felt that it ruined the creativity and purity of his own thought. And I think this is an important point. So really, I don't have a grand sweeping statement about what clarity of thought would mean, but it's something that you recognize whenever you experience it, and it's not something that you really need to look for. It's something that will happen. And so I will admit that this is definitely probably too much information, more information than you need, but I hope that it is at least helpful information in the sense that I'm transmitting some kind of idea and some kind of understanding that hopefully you can find useful. I could talk forever, but I wanted to keep this video short. But I definitely enjoy trying to reach that clarity, even though it can be difficult to find. And I definitely think that it's a worthwhile pursuit to try to find clarity, because it's very easy for our thinking to get muddled because we encounter so many different sources of information. I mean, just reading the news is a nightmare, because there's so many appeals to emotion, which can be frustrating. There's so many biases, and it can be overwhelming in terms of the content and the like. And sometimes we just need to allow ourselves to think and let that be sufficient. This is Phoenix, and thanks.